Okay, this is our cash flow breakdown screen. It's the second tab on our My Energy screen. Now, one way to think of this is it's your bill for today or for any other day you might select. So it essentially divides all your costs and your revenues up into the various component areas. So at the moment, we're looking at today, 1st of January, and this will, because it is today, this will be an estimate. And this is where this little dot here is where we are during the day, quite late in the day. If we wanted to look at an actual, I would go back to yesterday because the meter data is coming in early in the morning for the previous day. So it's only previous days that I'll have actual costs. The estimates are done off forecasts of the actuals. So here's my activity for yesterday. And you can see here it was New Year's Eve, so quite a bit of activity in the evening. But basically, quite a flat usage profile. Well, sorry, cost profile there. If we start at the top here, we've essentially got the net cost for today. So essentially, $6.64 was what yesterday cost me. I might also just point out that this screen is not necessarily exactly the same as the bill. It's a pretty good estimate, but there are a couple of items that are not on this screen that will be on the bill. Some very small adjustments.
So what are there's quite a few items on this bill. Do you want to just talk us through exactly what each of those items down the left-hand side are?
Sure. So we got our total, our net costs, which is going to be all of our purchases minus all of our sales. So we can see here that we paid $6.68 during the day for electricity and sold 4 cents. This would have been all solar export through the middle of the day. Now, we then break down all our purchases and all our sales into subcategories. So, and we can also see we have here dollars and cents, and we have down here kilowatt hours. So I imported 17.8 kilowatt hours during the day, and I exported just under 1 kilowatt hour. So not a lot at all. Now that translated into a spot energy or a wholesale cost of $1.43. This was the energy I've imported from the grid at the wholesale price, and that price will be different for every 5 minutes. So the 5-minute profile of the price is matched up against the 5-minute profile of the usage. Two are multiplied together, and that's my total cost. Then I've also got to pay the networks to actually get that energy to my house. So it's coming through the poles and wires, and they're charging a certain amount per kilowatt hour. And so that black line is my network energy costs. I have to pay a daily access fee just to be on the grid. So this is, again, coming from my network operator. In my case, this is Ausgrid in the Sydney area. So I'm paying about 6.7 cents a day. 67 cents a day. And network demand, this is something not everyone has, but if you are on a demand tariff, it means you pay a charge for the maximum amount you've used in a peak window during a day. And the idea here is that they've got to build the network to assume that everyone is going to use the most electricity at the same time, and this is the charge they put on that capacity in the distribution network. So network demand, and you can see here that's probably a third of my daily costs. Metering costs. They don't come and read my meter, but they get it electronically. But whether someone's physically reading your meter or whether they're getting the data through remote comms, the metering companies are charging us to collect and then deliver that data. So LocalVolts is not directly reading your meter, and probably your distributor. So for example, in this case, Ausgrid is not reading my meter. It's a company called Vector that's reading the meter, and they're sending the data through to LocalVolts. Mandated certificates. That's a collection of costs. There's various certificates that As a retailer, we have to purchase for all of our customers, usually based on their electricity usage, their total consumption, and this includes an amount for large-scale certificates and also small-scale certificates, which are under the renewable energy target. And it also includes state-based schemes. So in my case, there's a cost for the New South Wales Energy Efficiency Scheme, which is levied on every customer. And then we have our Local Vaults fee, which is the subscription for being on the Local Vaults platform, which is $1 a day plus GST. On our sales side, we have the spot energy revenue. So essentially what we made out of selling into the grid. And then we also have our peer-to-peer matched revenue. So as well as selling some electricity, we can see down here that I exported 0.41 kilowatt hours into the spot market, but 0.54 kilowatt hours was sold to someone else or many people potentially. So this is a summary of how much I earned from peer-to-peer versus how much I earned from spot sales. So I earned 1 cent out of selling to the spot market, and I earned 3 cents out of peer-to-peer because I've sold not even a kilowatt hour. So very small amounts.
I noticed that you're not purchasing from the peer-to-peer market. Is that just your settings?
I've chosen not to. I could potentially purchase instead of purely from the spot market. I could be purchasing that peer-to-peer.
Okay, so that would appear underneath energy purchased when that's happening?
Exactly, yeah. It would be under the spot energy column. There'd be a peer-to-peer matched column.
Okay, what's the column on the far right, the max? What does that mean?
Okay, so you see here that through the day, there's changes in the consumption and the export, and as we know, there's also changes in the price as we go through the day. So this max is essentially along this line the maximum value out of all of this. So for example, for cost, my maximum cost was here probably around 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and it's quite a high kilowatt per kilowatt hour figure of $2.99 per kilowatt hour. But you can see for the whole day, I only paid $6.64. So that price would have been present for probably 5 minutes. So it might have cost a few cents in the scheme of things. But this basically does show the maximum level any of these lines meet. If it's a flat line, it's generally the same as the daily costs. So for example, the ones here, the demand is levied per month. So that's broken down to a daily cost here.
Okay, so if I could potentially use the max costs to modify the way I'm using my devices or appliances in my house to reduce costs?
You could. It's more of an information figure. It would be hard to base any control decisions off this screen in particular, of that screen, but it's kind of an information. It's maybe just out of interest more than being truly reflective of say average prices or the total cost you've paid, but it does show what prices can get up to. It's a very variable market.
Okay, and so this screen seems to be a great place if I'm not sure what my bill is going to be, to get a really good idea of what's going to happen or what happened in the last month, for example.
Definitely, and to answer that question, we have the state selectors up the top. So I've just selected the 1st of December to the 31st of December. So I can now get an estimate of my bill for the month of December by looking at exactly the same breakdown and the same categories, but just over a longer time period. So we can see here that my bill for December is estimated at $206. And that's made up of $209 in purchases and $2.80 in sales. And you can, again, we have this this line showing how this changes over time, but in this case, it'll be over a whole month. It'll be more of a daily thing rather than a 5-minute view. So again, we'll see the same breakdown. So out of that total bill, $41.60 was buying energy from the grid. Here I've got some peer-to-peer purchases earlier in December. So $1.78 was spent on peer-to-peer energy. And we can see how much energy was down here. So that was 564 kilowatt hours from the grid, but only 5.8 from the peer-to-peer market. $21 went to the networks. Another $20 went to the networks for just the daily connection fee, and another $77 went to the network for my demand charge. So you can see out of this $200 bill, around about almost $120 went to the networks for demand charges and volumetric charges. And if you add in metering there, you're sort of going over 120. $8 for the month for the certificate fees, and $34 in local vault subscription. And then on the sales side, again, so here we actually have negative 83 cents. So it's actually cost me money on average over the whole month to export into the grid. And that's generally because this is a solar-based system. And so my exports would generally be in the middle of the day when prices tend to be quite low or negative. So I've locked a little bit of money in actually exporting to the grid, but with the fact that I've been selling peer-to-peer for most of the month, I've actually made $3.64 from the peer-to-peer sales. And that's an example of how you can use peer-to-peer to get around some of the market dynamics like negative prices. If you have a solar system without the ability to curtail your export at times of negative prices, you can seek to sell as much of that as possible in the peer-to-peer market and make a small amount on it rather than paying to export. Okay, so that's, again, this should be very close to my monthly bill. There'll be a couple of very small adjustments and charges on the bill that you know, within a few dollars might be very slightly different, but it should be a very good estimate of how the bill will turn out.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the emissions from purchases?
Sure. So this is a measure of essentially my emissions intensity or my carbon footprint across the month. So based on the amount I've pulled in from the grid and based on the generation mix in the grid, the total CO2 equivalent is 362 kilograms for the month. Now, what we do with the emissions is we essentially model every generator in the grid and its emissions intensity usually based on fuel type, whether it's a coal or a gas, or obviously zero for wind and solar. And then there's a certain mix of renewables in the grid already. And this is basically how that works out. Now, any energy I've purchased peer-to-peer will, presuming it's coming from renewable sources, which at the moment all of it does in the local vaults marketplace, that will have a zero footprint. So the more peer-to-peer I'm purchasing, then the less my carbon footprint.